Hey there everyone, and welcome to this episode of Gearist TV. Today we're going to be reviewing the A86 TR from who's it from? Keen! A lot of the trail shoes that we tend to see today, especially those that are classified as a more heavy, more rugged trail shoe, are great for being super rugged and dealing with a lot of really hardcore terrain, but they're not very fast because they're either very weighty, very stiff, and they're just bulky. The Keen A86 really kind of bucks that trend and is a legit, speedy, fast racing flat made for some light trail. Alright, first let's talk about the outsole. The outsole of the Keen A86, as you can see here, is made up of this series of circular multi-directional lugs. Now, this part right here, this little blue windy thing going across the shoe there, the lugs on that all face back so that the front part is slanted forward. As you can see there, I'll hold it up to the camera a little bit, okay? The lugs are angled back. This is to give you traction pulling forward, okay? Now, the only part that is with the lugs oriented in the other direction is this part on the medial heel. The medial means the inside part of the foot. The medial heel here, where you can see that the lugs are oriented facing forward. That's to give you some braking action on a little bit of downhill. Aside from being multi-directional, which you want on trail to give you greater traction on a wide variety of terrain, the lugs also sit up about 3 millimeters off the sole itself. So this isn't giving you a huge, super beefy thing that you might trip or catch something on, and it's also keeping the weight down, and it's going to give you, again, that speedy, fast shoe that you're looking for on the bottom there. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the midsole. That is this part. If you've seen any review on here before, you know one of the first things that I like to look at is the drop. That's the difference in height from the heel to the forefoot, right under the metatarsal heads there, the ball of the foot and that channel of the metatarsal heads. The drop on the Keen A86 is right at 4 millimeters. 6 millimeters is where I generally consider to be the kind of line of demarcation between a traditional running shoe and something with a more natural foot functioning drop. Even though the natural foot function is at 0, this is right at 4 millimeters, which puts it right comfortably in that natural footwear range that I like to see. Now, the material of the midsole is not your traditional EVA foam. Most companies will use EVA foam because it's cheap, it's easy to work with, and it's super lightweight. The downside of EVA is that it tends to break down at around 200 kilometers. When I say that EVA tends to break down, what that means is that the number of air pockets, which are what determine how dense, or the durometer of EVA foam, those air pockets start to compress. Think about little bubbles kind of slowly popping over time. Now, in polyurethane foam, which is what Keen chose to use in this, there is not as much compressive breakdown as there is in EVA foam. There is a bit of a weight trade-off. This is heavier than EVA foam, but it's also very springy. So because the rest of the shoe is very minimal, it seems as though they were willing to take the sacrifice of a little bit of extra weight in the midsole to gain that springy action from the midsole of the shoe itself. So now let's talk about the upper of the Keen A86. This is the upper. The first thing that you might notice the upper of the Keen A86 is the super asymmetrical lacing system. A lot of companies today are using asymmetrical lacing systems because they take pressure off not only the bones on the top of the foot, but the circulation on the top of the foot, which keeps the foot awake and not losing its sensitivity to the ground and ground feel. Now, in this case, what they've done is they've started on the lateral side of the foot, that's the outside of the foot, woven around the bones on the top of the foot and down over the big toe. This is really great because it really does take that pressure off the blood vessels that come across the top of the big foot, as well as leaving the bones of the top of the foot unobstructed. The strapping on this shoe is welded on, so it's heat welded, heat molded to the upper, as you may be able to see there. It's going to be a weight saver, and it's also going to make it for a nice sleek glove-like feel and look. The next thing is this toe cap right here. As you can see, the toe cap comes up and over the toe. This is something that I didn't really think was necessary at first, but honestly, after using it for a while and being the slightly clumsy person that I am on trail runs from time to time, this really did come in handy. Something that you'll realize is that when you're running along, your foot is going to orient itself like this as it trails behind your body. So if you're going to kick a rock, it's not necessarily going to be kicking it like this all the time. You're going to kick it like this. And the primary point of contact is going to be the great toe or the big toe. So this toe cap covering over the big toe is actually a really nice addition that I was surprised about. Lastly, on the upper is the material. It's a very nice open weave mesh. It keeps the debris out. It's open enough to really let the foot breathe very well, but not so open as to allow in a whole lot of debris and clogging up the foot and things like that. One thing you will notice about this shoe is that it's quite narrow, especially in the upper. Now, this is not a huge deal. However, if you're going and doing a lot of downhill running, you're probably going to notice yourself being jammed into the front of the shoe a little bit. That's definitely something to take into consideration and well worth trying on before you go buying a pair. Let's talk about the ride of the shoe. Now, on Keen's website, keenfootwear.com, K-E-E-N, footwear.com, they do refer to this as a light trail shoe. That's something that's important to remember. Now, if you're going to take this out on a super rocky trail, this is not where that's going to thrive. This is something that's going to be really great on well-worn single track, a nice fire road, things like that are meant to be fast. It really did handle all terrain quite well, with the exception of probably slick mud, but let's face it, unless you have baseball cleats on or something like that, slick mud's going to be a bit challenging. The ride is really nice and springy. You don't notice any additional weight from the polyurethane midsole, and it's actually extremely flexible. It works with the foot really very well, which is nice. If you're looking for a shoe that is nice and compact across the board and is meant to go fast on trail, this is definitely a shoe that you're going to want to try out. This shoe really keeps everything nice and close to the foot with a really solid glove-like fit. It's a little bit narrow, as I mentioned earlier, but it's not so narrow that it's going to obstruct your foot, assuming you don't have a wide foot. Coming in at $90 on the Keen website, this is a really well-priced shoe. Definitely something that you should check out, and this polyurethane midsole gives it a lot more durability than you might expect. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of running on roads, this is probably going to wear the lugs quicker than you might want to see that. But again, this is a light trail shoe, not a road shoe. It actually makes me wish that Keen would come out with a few more running shoes, because they really did a nice job kind of thinking across the board what would make a nice light trail shoe with this one. So that is the Keen A86 TR. Please check it out by going to keenfootwear.com and let us know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Gearist TV. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out at Gearist.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and we'll see you next time. As always, thanks so much for watching this episode of Gearist TV. Please find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as Gearist.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget to click that big subscribe button right there. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.